y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing a review that y'all probably did not expect to do. I mean, I didn't expect to do it. And before any of y'all go crazy in the comments and are telling me, girl, why you reviewing this? You anti-hauled this shiz. You basically anti-hauled her. I was minding my own business, and for any of y'all who follow me on the Snapchats, you would have seen me minding my own business. When I came back from my walk and I came to an anonymously labeled package with this inside it, sort of like a sick gag gift. I'm not sure where it came from, why it came, how it came, or what its intent was in my life. There was no note, there was no nothing. I have no idea. Maybe a ill-spirited fairy dropped it on my door. In all honesty, I have absolutely no idea. So I decided, you got it. You might as well do a review on it. Several of y'all have actually told me, you know, the color story, which we all know isn't very revolutionary. It's kind of Lolita themed, but it could have been better. But several of y'all were like, you know what? The formula, the quality is good. So I'm like, if I have it, let's create that content. Let's do that. Let's do this. And now, as you can see by the title and the thumbnail, that this is only going to be, I don't want to also roast this palette because several people have claimed that I do my Kat Von D roasting simply for the views, when in reality, the quality of her products have simply gone downhill to the point that it merits roasting. But we're only going to be half because this isn't a total sham. Obviously, I was able to do something nicey nice with it today, but there are just some inconsistencies and some issues I take with some of the formulas. So I'm going to give what I consider to be a reasonable, unbiased, and also for anyone who is going to comment down below, I'm going to get something of someone who is going to reference me saying that I was no longer going to support Kat Von D. If you watch my videos on Kat Von D recently, I never spoke in an infinite saying that I would never purchase from her again. I said I was on the road, the path to potentially no longer purchasing from her, and like I've said in all the reviews I've done since that, the quality of her merchandise is just kind of further incentivizing me to continue on with that. I do want to stay. I didn't buy this. I did not sell my soul to whatever. So with that being said, a disclaimer. Let's get into talking about this thing. This is the Lolita Vida, which is the second larger expansion of her little Lolita palette, which was, I reviewed that, we'll leave it down below. It was pretty good, but it was definitely on that kind of tail end of her quality control and just her creativeness kind of going down the drain. This is what the palette looks like on the inside. I am wearing it on my peepers today. It is a limited edition, exclusive to Sephora, though you can probably get it on Kat Von D's site. And this thing is going to run you $49.50, which I kind of don't understand the 50 cents, like, you know, making it $49.50. They're like, oh, well, it's not 50. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not 40 either. I feel like that is kind of pricey a little bit, because if this is her holiday palette, usually her holiday palettes are on the pricier point, but they're also typically a lot more elaborate than this in packaging as well as layout. You are getting 8 mattes and 5 traditional shimmers, 6 traditional shimmers, and then you've got these 2 shades that are kind of like the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered shimmers, but not as nice to work with. And then a pressed glitter right here, which y'all know, no matter who makes it, you know how I feel about pressed glitters. So let's just get into swatching this. It has a really big old nice mirror. I do like that. It's got the nice whateverness going on. That's nice. Today for my eye look, I started off with Esperanza, just kind of all over my whateverness. And then I went into into La Lupe, and then Lolita por Vida, and Cariño. Please pardon my Spanish. I took 4 semesters of it, and I know basically nothing. All right, we're just gonna go whoop, whoop, whoop like we do. We've got Preciosa, Sorrisa, which I will admit is a very beautiful color. It is more of an effervescent fairy fart top coater, but it's at least a pretty one. And then Muñeca. Here we got those things going on right there. So you can see how it's got like kind of the pretty reflex, but it's not, it's pretty, but there's not a lot there. Then Cruz, Romantico, and Cariño. And Cariño, I will say, if you're familiar with some of Kat Von D's matte formulas, it's a very dry formula, you know, it has kickback. It's not exactly, it wasn't the best to work with. It wasn't like the most awful matte I've ever used in my life, but at the same time, compared to her Shade and Light and her other holiday palettes, it just wasn't up to snuff. Then La Lupe, which is a gorgeous, like perfect fall type of shade. And then this is the shade I have right here. And it's pretty. It looked nice. It looked poppin'. But the work you have to do to get these to be poppin' is pretty gnarly. I mean, you swatch it and you're just like, oh, baby.
Oh, sweetie.
And then as you're like actually working to apply it, it more turns into a,
Oh, sweetie.
like that there is not what you are going to get on your eyelid, at least using a brush. It is crumbly. You've got to work and you've got to keep like patting it down and smoothing it out and getting fallout on your face. Just compared to how nicey nice it looked in the pan and in the swatch, just kind of what it did on my eyelid was a wee bit disappointing. And I apologize if my saturation is gonna go in and out. It is like rainy as all get out there, so my natural lighting is kind of not the best. Then we have Enamorada, which is, we've got a lot of like I feel like this one, this one, this one, and this one all kind of serve the same purpose of being like that first shade you start with like a teensy tiny bit of a different undertone. And then we have Reina, which is, it's not the worst pressed glitter. I mean, it's better than the Huda Beauty ones, but still, y'all know how I feel about pressed glitters. They get everywhere. If I want to use a glitter, I'm just gonna get a little whatever. Apparently glitter is really bad, causes micro tears, and is super bad for the environment. So why is this still a thing? Then we've got Esperanza. Oh yeah, I stopped it too. Then we have Esperanza, which does oxidize. It looks really light in the pan, but as you're like applying it and then you let it sit, you're like, wow, that's a lot deeper. Then Luna, which just like that one, you know, you go and you're like, wow, that is going to be the stuff of legends. And it's, I mean, look at that. You would think that was going to be the most bomb diggity shadow in the world. And it just isn't to work with. That's probably one of the nicest lighter mattes. Then probably the best quality-wise and consistency-wise is this bottom row here, which I find funny because basically, these are typical Kat Von D shades. You've got shades from the Shade and Light. We've got red tones that she's done before. You know, this is the safe zone. So we've got Amorcito, Sylvia, and Juanita. I mean, they don't feel like anything that's like amazing. Like when I dip my fingers into a Jeffree Star or a ColourPop or a Huda Beauty even, you know, they feel smooth and soft and your fingers just like easily running over it. This one you gotta work a little bit to get that pigment on there. Then the last three are Bestino, which is probably the smoothest feeling shimmer. Rosario, we're going back to that kind of stiffer texture. And then Lolita por Vida right here. And we got those right here. So this is what we're working with. You know, it's not a revolutionary color story. You know, it's like pinky, mauvey, browny, fall, whatevers. I enjoy the look that I created today. Did it take more work than it should? Yes. So yeah, here we are. Gonna wash these off and we're gonna talk about this thing on a whole. Okay, to be 110% honest, I had no idea what I was expecting with this. Y'all know I had anti-hauled it. I didn't think it was anything really beautiful or revolutionary. I don't think that she really took the Lolita theme and ran with it. She didn't do it with the first one. I don't think she did it with this one. It's a very different format than we've seen from Kat Von D. The pressed glitter is different. The formula of these is completely different than anything I've ever tried from her. And compared to, say, her other shimmers from just past palettes that I've had, even say the Shade and Light Glimmer palette, which is the all shimmer light palette of the Shade and Light matte version, even compared to like that, these shimmers are just very faint. And I feel like that's kind of the theme of the whole palette that I noticed while swatching it and using it, that it's just kind of, you know, faint. It's very diffused, but not necessarily in like a soft and ethereal sort of way. It's more diffused in the sense of you're not getting a lot of color payoff. And sort of the same with the mattes. While it's not a terrible formula, it's definitely subpar in comparison to other palettes she's released. I would say this matte formula is even not as good as the little mini Lolita palette. If I were to be like, okay, which one would you get, this big one or the little one, I would say the little one all the way, just because I think you would be having a better experience using that one than this one. And I noticed that as I kind of like was working on building up the color, like I went into this shade as my last one, and it just didn't seem to deepen it up as much as I would have liked. Like I was adding and applying, and it just, like I said, the shadows just didn't seem to do nearly as well as I would have liked them to, or as I had been accustomed. You know, now I'm just kind of, you know, her formula is 110% hit or miss. So from a matte and shimmer sort of perspective, it just didn't wow me. This shade is really beautiful, but it's, once again, very faint. Like all the shimmers are just this more like soft, kind of there, hint of shimmer, not really any sort of cha-cha going up on my lid. But then you have these two shades, which upon swatching, which looking at them in the pan, you see that reflectiveness. You would think these are gonna be like God tier level shimmers. And the problem I have with these, which is the same problem that I had with the shimmers in the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered palette. This is a very interesting formula, and that's putting it nicely. By interesting, I mean if you use a brush, the way you pick this up is you get chunks of it on your brush, and then you kind of pat it onto your eyelid and then try to smooth it out while hoping that the chunks you placed on your eyelid don't fall down on your face. Typically what I had to do is I would kind of like move it this way, you know, kind of push my brush this way to lodge a little bit of product out so that I could then pick it up with my brush. Just kind of, you know, the usual kind of picking up motion, just putting your brush through it. Didn't pick up hardly anything. And then you have to keep dipping down on into it because you only get like this much, and you know, a little bit doesn't go a long way when it comes to these two colors. You've got to keep digging in, you've got to just keep reapplying that and picking more up. They do apply better with a finger, but y'all know how I feel about that. When you're trying to go for like, especially if you're trying to do like a blinkety blank cut crease thing, you know, your finger isn't exactly precise application at its best. The brush that I typically use for applying shimmers is this little teeny tiny like pointed thing that I'm really able to like carve out that lid and keep it from going into the matte shadows I've got up here. And these just did not want to be picked up by it at all. Like I said, not worst glitter I've ever used, but I'm just kind of like, why? Why? I mean, she's never had these two formulas before, or this one here. I feel like when your brand is on such a downward swing as like hers is, now is not the time to be trying out new formulas. Now is the time to really come out with something that's like traditional formulas that we're used to kind of bring yourself up a little bit. And then maybe if people respond well to that, then be like, I'm gonna try a new palette that's got new formulas in it and see how it does. But just coming out with one after your well had been running quite dry, the products you've been releasing have been at best, no one cares, no one's reviewing them, and then you're just like, okay, well, I am going to bank on the Lolita name, and we're gonna finally release this big palette here and hope to God in high heaven that people like it. And I have heard several of y'all have said you really like it. You think it's a good formula. The quality's there. While the color story may not be anything super amazing, several of y'all said at least the quality was good. And in my opinion, the quality is okay. This is not a palette I would recommend, not for $49.50. Maybe if this goes on sale, which it probably will, spending more like 25 bucks, yeah, sure. But when we've got so many better formulas, formulas from Jeffree Star, from ColourPop, which is way more affordable, I honestly can't look at this and be like, yes, this is something that on a whole I would recommend, because I wouldn't. It just doesn't do for me what her previous releases have done. Y'all know the last couple of palettes that she's come out with, Fetish and then Vegan Love, and then I think this was the next one. All three of those have been pretty much duds for me. They're nothing that excites me either format-wise or formula-wise. And that's really where I come down, is when, a boring color story, that's whatever. You can see the colors, you choose to buy what you buy. But when the formula isn't there to back up that color story, what's the point? I do feel like this was really definitely a missed mark going on for her, because at this point, I do feel like I keep saying, her brand is really on the downward swing. There was no hype about this. Nobody cared. I mean, it was just, like I said, if this is her holiday palette and this is what just a moment. If we've somehow managed to go from this to this, it is a sad future for Kat Von D Beauty. Because taking a look at this is the Saint and Sinner palette, and some people, this is kind of when some people had issues. I hate holding this. Because the color story was so crazy and mishmashed and whatever, but at least the quality was consistent and good. So the shades that you did have were great quality. And so you could look past sort of that mishmash, Kat Von D, I'm just gonna throw a crap ton of things together. And then when you get a more concise color theory and it not being good quality is very seriously a bit of a letdown. I stand by what I said. I anti-hauled this. I would not have purchased it myself. To whoever sent it to me, if it was any of y'all, thank you so much for giving me review material. But I just don't think this is anything worth spending, especially not for $49.50, y'all. Like this, like I keep saying, it's okay. It's like middle tier. It's like a lot of Too Faced palettes. Like I said, ColourPop is 110 times better than this. Go on to ColourPop, take this layout. I need to do a ColourPop video where I purchase singles to dupe out palettes like this. Let me know if you would like to see that down below, because I think that would be really interesting to see. But at the end of the day, this is something that I'm not impressed with. I feel that she is just kind of riding the coattails of whatever it is she can to keep her brand going as much as she can until its inevitable downfall and closure. Okay, there we had that review, a review I did not anticipate doing. I hope all y'all don't think that I sold my soul to the review gods, because like I said, I didn't spend my money on it. Obviously, let me know down below what you think about this palette. Like I keep saying, several of y'all were like, you know what, you anti-hauled it, but you know, it's pretty good. We're pretty pleased with it. So I was very interested in, you know, looking into it and being like, if that's true, but it just fell really flatline for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah!